Hello and welcome to a brand new season of Off the Fence, brought to you in conjunction with BOYLESPORTS, and we are delighted to be back for season 4, episode 1. And of course, this is your go-to digital jumps program. It carries you all the way through from roughly the start of the national hunt season, where it really starts to hot up, all the way through till the Cheltenham Festival and beyond. Myself, Barry Geraghty, and of course Tony Keenan will be with you every week from now throughout the course of the winter. And I am delighted to be back with the boys, recording of course on a Monday night. Barry, it's great to be back, isn't it? Can you believe it? They've had us back for a 4th season.
You're as shocked as I am, obviously, Vanessa. No, it's great to be back. Summer was good, but I was in Cheltenham the weekend before, or the previous weekend, so to get a little bit of taste of Cheltenham and the buzz, and yeah, no, that really whet the appetite for the winter.
Lovely, lovely. Well, we're going to get stuck into the first part of the show. Is going to be a sort of general chat about the upcoming season. And Tony, how much are you looking forward to it at this point? Sort of looking down the barrel of the gun, thinking we've got some competitive action coming our way now.
Yeah, we do. I was looking forward to going to down Ryle last Saturday, but that got rained off fairly early in the week. I was looking jealously at you and the TV. We could have done with a bit of that Californian sun, but it's all going to go ahead Thursday and Friday, the account. So hopefully head up there Saturday and see the champion chasing a few other promising horses, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was great that they could reschedule it, and we will be discussing a few of those races. But Barry, to bring it back to a kind of more general sense and looking at the season as a whole coming up, obviously we've seen a few of the big guns out already, and we will be talking about them too. But in general, do you think we're looking at a particularly competitive national hunt season? Obviously, if you take away the obvious star, how dare we, in Constitution Hill. Other than him, you know, the hurdling division could be quite open with it behind him, I mean. The 3 mile staying chase division, with what happens with Bravemansgame at the weekend, could also be quite open. How competitive do you think this season is going to be?
I think very competitive. Obviously, you mentioned the Constitution Hill. He's looking very strong, but who knows what's going to leap out? You know, Imperial Passes there. You talk about a Gold Cup. Galloping the Jump has to get back to it again, but the standard he did set, has to be respected. And at his age as well, he's only a 7-year-old. He's open to more improvement. Bravemansgame is an 8-year-old, but we'll speak about him in a few minutes. But he did okay at Weatherby. Then you've got Willie's horse in the champion chase, El Fabiolo. He's something exciting as well, I think. The stairs hurdle is probably the most confused division, if you want. But I'm thinking at the minute Tia Hoop, who has a 6-year-old, the same thing as Galloping the Champ, just that age profile has potential. He was only beaten 3 parts last year, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between here and March. But there's a lot of quality there. Maybe the bumper, I think the bumper is going to work out well, and we could have a good bunch of novice hurdlers as a result.
And we can't really go too far into the show without having a very quick check-in about Constitution Hill, Barry. Anything to report, anything other than the obvious for our viewers and listeners out there?
Not only that he's done really well, he's got stronger, he's filled out. Very happy with him. Yeah, I've been speaking to all connections, and no, the vibes are good, so fingers crossed it stays that way.
Great. Well, that's a good positive update, and of course we will be discussing him aplenty, I'm sure, this season. Tony, what are your predictions for this jump season? What do you think we have on the horizon? Do you have anything that sort of a stand out to you in terms of what might happen or what might not happen, more to the point?
I don't have any real standout as yet. I'm really only switching out of flat mode. The last day of the turf was at the Cork on Sunday, but I am thinking in these sort of first 5 or 6 weeks leading up into Christmas, how are Mullins and Elliott going to approach it? Look, I think Elliott's kind of a key figure in the whole Irish scene, especially this season. Like, there's always pressure on these top trainers, but I think especially so at the moment, he's a sort of a guy under a bit of pressure. Like, I've never really bought this rebuilding stuff that has been mentioned about him post sitting on the dead horse thing. He lost a few horses around that time, but the amount of money that was spent on replacing them in the few years since, to me, should have more than rebuilt on them. And looking at the Racing Post stable tour there recently, he has at least 10 new Jigginstown horses. They're backing him again. That's only the ones that were mentioned. They've moved a load of horses from different yards to him, so he should have the firepower now to be kind of kicking on and kind of matching with Mullins. I would say with Gordon Elliott now, Punchestown last season left a bit of a sour taste with him. Like Cheltenham was one thing, I think you had a couple of winners there and things didn't really go right for him, I'd say, in terms of second. Davy Russell seemed to be riding with a bit of an injury. That's all fair enough, but to get to Punchestown and like, what did he have? Winner of a mayor's listed hurdle and the charity race was all he mustered. Like Punchestown it's the last meeting, you know, it's a thing that sticks in people's head. Cheltenham is dominant, but Punchestown, you know, what you ran there sticks in people's mind, I think, for a long time. And for his owners and for himself, and I'm sure for the general public, like that was a very disappointing return. So just looking at the way he started off, kind of September, first 2 weeks of October, to me his horses were quite slow to come to hand. I think the horses coming back of 100 days or more were like 1 from 25 or something in those 6 week periods. Zanahiyr won, but that was a small field race that he nearly couldn't but win. And again, reading that Racing Post stable tour, the emphasis seemed to be on come on for a run, improve for the run, was a bit overweight going into it. So I'm just wondering, is he taking a slightly different approach? Does he want to kind of extend his season, maybe to last into Punchestown? Look, he's never going to match Willie Mullins at Punchestown, but he does need to be competitive at these Grade 1 races. I'm reminded of something Peter Chappell-Hayham said one time. He talked about how, I think it was around the time of Authorised, but he was saying how he was always known as a trainer of kind of early 2-year-olds and Ryle Ascot 2-year-olds and stuff like that. And he's saying he didn't like that name. He says, no, I'm going to try and train my horses for a bit more, you know, down the lane, stay in 3-year-olds. And when he started doing that, he kind of found out that he wasn't training winners at all. So he kind of went away from what he was used to. And I hope that isn't going to work out for Gordon Elliott. I think what he's doing is a bit ballsy now. Because his strike rate has dipped a little bit in that period with the horses returning from a break. And I really hope it does work out for him, that it doesn't blow up in his face, because Irish racing is absolutely at its best when him and Mullins are going head to head. Yes, like Henry de Bromhead and Gavin Cromwell are there and with very good horses, but like that Punchestown when the two of them went head to head was, to me, the most as memorable an Irish racing festival as there ever was. So that's the one thing I'm looking out for Gordon Elliott. I'm also looking out to see what's Willie Mullins going to do with this kind of slightly restructured calendar. November now is kind of a big month, whereas December is a little bit fallow up until Christmas. You have 3 festivals, Navan, Punchestown and Fairyhouse as always was. So is Willie Mullins going to have his horses ready for that, or is he going to do what he usually does, kind of gradually introduce them and they really only come into hand in mid-December, Christmas time? So it'll be interesting to see what their two respective approaches are.
Yeah, well, before we move on then, I mean, that angle with Mullet and Elliott and the slightly different, as you say, approach. Barry, you're pretty close to the yard. How do you feel that their mindset is at the yard? Is there a slightly different approach going on at the moment?
Yeah, it does look a little bit that way. But I suppose this weekend in Downryle is always a springboard for Gordon at his season, so it'll be interesting to see just how ready they are there. And Gerri Colombe, for example, we're going to come to him as well, but how ready will he be to take on horses who've had a run? So that's going to really tell you where they are as they meet quality horses. As Tony mentioned, Zanahiyr, he had to win that race, but it looked like he did need it badly. So there is a chance, but we won't know until we go to Downryle. But as regards Willie, he doesn't get his horses out early. You don't see him often before December with his best horses. But this year has been so wet, and that plays a big part. Willie's gallop needs rain. And if that gallop is wet and he's had plenty of rain for the last month, you might find those horses are more forward than they would have been other years. And the same for Nicky Henderson, has been on the grass a lot earlier than he has been in the last couple of years. So you could see his horses being more forward as a result. So there could be a change in both, if you like, but I think Willie's might be more driven by weather.
Interesting. Okay, well, as you both said, this weekend at Down Royal will be telling for both of those narratives. Let's talk about, because we've already mentioned him, Bravemansgame being beaten in the Charlie Hall by Gentlemansgame, of course, the Irish raider. Barry, I'll come to you first. Obviously, it was the first run of the season off the back of his tough spring campaign when we last saw him last season. I know personally that I think, the team were very confident going there to use this as a springboard to, potentially the Betfair Chase and then the King George. On reflection, how disappointed will they be with that defeat? Just how little he found after that mistake at the last? Or is there some level of positives to take from it?
Well, personally, I'd be happy to go with the positives. And I wasn't fully convinced about him going to this race last year. He beat Eldorado Allen 3 lengths, getting £3 off him. he went and beat him 22 lengths then in the King George. So he improved dramatically from his first run last year. He sweated up on that day last year. This year he seemed more relaxed. He raced lovely, travelled brilliant, jumped really well. But some racing journalists questioned Harry Colombe, why didn't he press on? And you could see from a long way out, Harry is just wanting to sit in front and conserve. It's like you're driving the last 2 miles in a car and the fuel gauge is empty. You don't press the throttle. You go as steady as you can to get home. It's about getting home. He flew the second last. He then had to race down to the last. Harry didn't commit for a big one because like that he wanted to pop just to conserve. The horse let fly. I don't think the mistake had made any difference. It was a tired horse mistake. He didn't lose momentum. He caught the top. Gentleman's Game put in a brilliant performance and ran past him. And it was a brilliant bit of training by Mouse and obviously placing by his owner Brian Atchison because he wanted to go there and Mouse wasn't that pushed. So it worked out brilliantly for them. But I think the amount of improvement you're going to see from Bravemansgame on the back of this, I wouldn't look at it as a negative at all. I think you're on a lovely race. Soft ground wasn't ideal for him, especially on his first run back. So no, I'd be very much looking at the positive with him.
And it's interesting what you say there about Harry's body language on the horse. It's very easy when you've not ridden a racehorse to get confused between sitting quietly on an empty petrol gauge, as you put it, and sitting quietly on something that's got loads in the tank. Essentially, it is hard for people to read that if they've never experienced it.
Exactly, yeah. But I could see it from Harry's body language at every stage, leaving the back straight. He only wanted to go as quick as Gentleman's Game was going to make him go. He was just parking in front, waiting. It's a little bit of a sitting duck. You're just waiting, hoping that your horse is going to find for pressure. And you're also hoping that the other fella beside you, Gentleman's Game in this case, is going to get tired, make a mistake. Just go away, please, because you know you're on fumes. So you're just hanging on, hoping and praying that you have enough to get to the line. And he actually threw a brilliant jump at the last. He was brave to have a go at it. But Harry was looking to go in, put in a short stride, pop it, and then go for home. But he didn't want to use up energy with a flashy jump at the last. But Bravemansgame was just up for it.
All right, but we're viewing it as a glass half full performance to take for the season ahead for Bravemansgame. Tony, what about listed mares hurdle just before the Charlie Hall up at Wetherby? Lucia beaten by She Wears It Well. Another case of a horse travelling relatively well, but then just not going through with it in the closing stages. What were your takeaways from that mares event?
Yeah, just to go back to say something about the Charlie Hall. Gentleman's Game, he's a hard horse to figure out. Like maybe the only show in town here is the fact that he's had only 3 chase runs and he's already won a grade 2 and we're underrating him. But I'm sceptical about him now. I think his form is full of holes, and I was actually delighted he wasn't running in Ireland now at the weekend, because I would have got him badly wrong. I would have been strongly against him, because I think his form is a bit flaky looking. He beat the Irish Grand National winner at Leopardstown. He doesn't really like to go left-handed, and he made the run on that day. And then in Gore, he was second to Easy Game. Like, his Easy Game now a soft ground horse. Wouldn't have been 2 and 2s with Gentleman's Games jumping either. I would echo all what Barry has said there about the ride. I didn't think there was any issue really with the ride. Although one thing I would just wonder, did Bravemansgame maybe hurt himself a little bit at the last? Because his tail started going higher and higher up to finish. Only a small subtle thing, but I was wondering now, was that a cause of him not finishing out his race, as well as the fitness? I suppose you're trying to figure out what level did Bravemansgame run to there. I was looking at both the Racing Post and time form ratings. I think the Racing Post had him 7 pounds below the King George, which was his best. Time form had him 9 pounds below the King George again, which was his career best. I think I'd have him a little bit lower than that. I would say there was a lot of improvement to come for him. Like, he was aiming at a race that was 3 weeks out, and then they decided to come here because it's very
Paul Nicholls thing to do that as well. You know, to change the target like that.
Yeah, and it was sort of a strange logic he was using. He was talking about long-term weather forecast. Like, long-term weather forecasts are, very unpredictable. I don't think 3 weeks out you could kind of guess that, but Haydock may just be more inclined to more testing ground maybe than Wetherby, and you'd be getting further into November. So yeah, I'm just saying, just the thing that was niggling at me was, did he actually do something to his back jumping that last? Because to me, the way his tail was going in the finish would have suggested that maybe there was something up with him. But as to Lucia, yeah, well, as genuine as You Wear It Well is, Lucia just looked a bit ungenuine to me there in the finish. She was doing plenty wrong. From 3 out, she's looking to get in behind the front runner, and then headcard starts getting a bit awkward and gets more and more awkward in the finish. So I don't know if she one I'd want to be with. Now, not slating the horse, like there may be something physical going on there, but just she certainly hinted that there was something up there with how she finished out that race, having been really strong in the market beforehand.
Okay, something to bear in mind. And of course that, Barry, leads us on to the fact that Nico wasn't there to ride Lucia up at Wetherby because he went to Ascot to ride Django Bay for his boss Nicky Henderson in the novice hurdle, who put in a pretty impressive display. Green and clearly still learning on the job. But where will this horse, do you think, sit in the Henderson pecking order this season in a few months' time?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting, but definitely the fact that Nico didn't go to Wetherby to ride Lucia, it spoke a lot for itself. So it was a good run by Django Bay, got keen through the middle part of the race, as you say, was green, jumping can improve, got headed by Tell Her The Name, which was a good performance as well. The horse was very impressive in his point-to-point, Ben Pauling bottom since, but that was a good run, I think, by both horses. That race just could work out, but visually it was impressive as a race, but the fact that Nico went there rather than Wetherby, I thought spoke a lot. Lucia, personally, I'd give her another chance. I think with the run under her belt, ideally I'd say better ground at that level as well. When you think they were considering the Supreme Novice Hurdle for her last year, that's how highly thought of she was. So I think at her age as well, she's only a 5-year-old, so whereas you wear it well as a 6-year-old, I think there's improvement. The winner would have been well suited by conditions, so I'd give her another chance.
Okay. You'll be more positive on her. Split divisions of opinions there. Before we move on from the review section, Tony, we should give a mention to Letsbeclearaboutit, who won over at Cork it was Sunday, wasn't it? My days are very muddled since I came back from California. Please bear with me. Did I tell you that I was in the Breeders' Cup, by the way?
Have you been to the Breeders' Cup? If you don't tell people about it, probably not. No, it's you have to. It's a bit to go into certain academic institutions. You haven't been there unless you tell everyone about it. Let's be clear about it. Hell of a performance from this horse. Looking at the market beforehand, I was saying he looks very, very short on what he's done. He was a good bumper horse. He was a very good novice hurdler without being top class. Did get beaten in the grade ones, and his chase debut in Goran was good. It was fine. The second come out, I think, was finished in the same position in the Munster National, but this was kind of an electric performance. I felt time comparisons with the Cork National in the same part of the track they covered would have, let's be clear about it, just streets and streets ahead. His jumping was excellent. He was beating a lot of horses that had won. He was far from all out. So I think you'd have to be taken with this performance. Market very much foretold it. Gavin Cromwell was saying afterwards, my horse is in particularly good form at the moment, and they won't always be in as good a form, and there will be better horses to come out from Gordon Elliott and from Willie Mullins, but at the moment he would look like a horse that is in the driving seat for a Drinmore, especially where to come up on the slow side on the Fairyhouse meeting.
Yeah, and that Cromwell yard, they continue in good form. Before we move on to our preview part of the show, listeners and viewers out there, do get involved. What did you make of the likes of Lucia's performance, getting beaten, like Bravemansgame, or the winners in those races? Are we not giving them enough attention at this stage in the season? And do you think that Bravemansgame will be able to bounce back in the King George, where currently with BOYLESPORTS, he's currently still the 7-4 market leader in that, for Paul to get him back firing on all cylinders for the big Christmas race? But do get involved. We want to hear from you, so comment in the YouTube box, Twitter, you know the drill. Any way that you want to get in contact with us on the At The Races digital platforms, please do. Right, let's move on to the preview part of the show. As the boys have already mentioned, we have good action at Clonmel and Down Royal coming up. We will start with Down Royal, I think. The rescheduled meeting is going to see the big champion chase, Down Royal champion chase, with the likes of Gerri, Colombe, Envoy Allen, Manella Indo. They all had entries when it was supposed to be last weekend. It could be a terrific race, as it was last year, Barry. Who would you be most looking forward to seeing at Down Royal on Saturday?
Well, Gerri Colombe is the horse that's been talked up, especially by Gordon. Obviously, he was very good at Aintree. He was just touched off at Cheltenham. But Down Ryle is going to be interesting. So, like we spoke with Gordon, how ready are they? But I think this horse will be ready because it has been marked up as his target. But he was a good novice without being a standout novice. To get beaten by the real whacker, it was a really good run. But if he was going to be a Gold Cup contender, I feel he would have had to cope with that. Albeit he had a little bit of work to do from the top of the hill. But for me, he needs to step up on that again. This is a good race. Manila Indo, obviously, the clock is against him. He's 10-year-old, but he has the benefit of a run. So if you're worried about horses and fitness, that shouldn't be an issue for him. Conflated, who bombed out behind him in Punchestown, he does have that run under his belt. He got beaten on his first run last year on Down Ryle, and he went and he won the Savills Chase at Leopardstown at Christmas. So he's a horse who can improve a lot from his first run. So it's going to be a tricky race. It's going to be interesting. Conflated is top rated. And Gerri Colombe does need to step up on what he has done as a novice. So it's going to be interesting. The ground won't be as bad as it was last weekend. It's only yielding to soft in places, and there's a chance it could improve again during the week. So it's not going to be straightforward. If they all turn up, it'll be a very interesting race.
Who do you fancy in it, Tony?
I don't fancy anyone. I'll throw my hands up at this race altogether. I've been through it a few times, impossible. I would disagree with Barry. I don't know if Gerri Colombe will be ready. Gordon Elliott will have his novices ready and that type of thing. I don't know. He's kind of alluded already to there's only one show in town with this horse, and that's the Gold Cup. It had nearly been negligent training to have him all out ready for this now on Saturday. I think you want to bring him along a bit more slowly, and he is probably the type of horse to do that. What's going to win it though? Outside of that, Manila Indo, I don't know what that Punchestown form means. I actually thought Conflated didn't run too bad. I thought he looked like he was going to be a half decent second under a Grade 1 penalty, jumping 2 out, just weakened out of it completely, like a horse that wasn't fit. I think you could construct the case that he was the second best staying chaser in Ireland last season after galloping the Champs. Leopardstown Christmas would say that, Cheltenham would say that. I suppose Fast or Slow might have something else to say about that. But one fairly sizable red flag in my mind, Gordon Elliott mentioned the cross country with him in a stable tour, and to me that's a bad sign. Now, he said it about Galvin last year, and yeah, that's where he finished up, and I think he got beaten at odds on in this race. Delta Work, you're back to the same old story with him. Jumping doesn't really stand up in Grade 1 company. That Punchestown race, by far and away to me, the most interesting horse of that race was Panda Boy. He's not entered at the weekend, but surely he has a good handicap in him somewhere along the line. There was a world of money for him. I think he was 16's first show into 11-4. Well, he wasn't ridden like a horse now that was gambled in from that price. He kind of got a quiet ride out the back and kind of finished off well, and I'd be thinking, come on for the run and try to win a kind of a valuable race. I think that race was only worth 28,000. He'd be aiming at a massive handicap pot somewhere along the line, maybe a Coral Cup or a Paddy Powers Chase or something like that. So, and then of course you've Envoy Allen, who's the great enigma, has pitched up and down Ryle, wins every time he turns up and down Ryle, it seems, regardless of bumpers, hurdles, chases, whatever it is. He ran fairly poorly in Gorham, but are they thinking that maybe this year he's a bit old, I want to give him a run before going to Den Ryle? But I just couldn't have an opinion on it. Very interesting race, but no outcome would really surprise me at all.
Right, okay, plenty of holes to be picked then was where we got to there. Anything else, Tony, first that you want to mention from Downroll before we kind of roll back to Clonmel?
Yeah, well, it's the usual stuff with Gordon Elliott at Down Ryle. I think the horses that he has that will win bumpers, win maiden hurdles and win beginners chases, I think that it's amazing the strike rate there. It's something like maybe 8 of the last 9 beginners chases, 10 of the last 12 maiden hurdles. The other trainers just aren't too keen on taking them on because he is running his best. I think a huge proportion of those horses that win those races for him turn out to be 140, 150 plus types, and the two that would stand out to me among the entries were, to me, his 2 best bumper horses last year, Firefox and No Time to Wait. Both of those would have good novice hurdle prospects.
Okay, something to look forward to then in terms of that younger generation up and coming. What about you, Barry? Anything else to mention at Downroll? If not, we will move on to Clonmel.
Yeah, no, there's a competitive mares hurdle there. Jatara, I thought might go well. There's a couple in it, Williamstown Dancer and Birdie or Broke. So that's going to be competitive. And there's a conditions hurdle as well where Irish Point is in with Magical Zoe, who I would say is getting a good bit of weight off between Mare's Allowance and Irish Point having a Grade 1 penalty. So that might just improve her chances. I think that'll be interesting.
Okay, God, plenty of fascinating contests then on the horizon. Clonmel though, Tony, we should mention the Mares Chase. You can have the Mares Chase at Clonmel before we talk about the Clonmel Oil as well. But in terms of what we've already spoken about on this show, Willie Mullins may be having some of his stable stars a little bit more forward due to the weather. If Barry's idea is right, potentially the wet weather. Allegorie de Vassy in here is the sort of eye-catching entry. Would you be looking at her for that mare's chase, or has something else caught your eye in this?
Yeah, something else. I feel like I have to have a shower after this, or maybe power wash myself down. I've actually had an anti-post bet for Cheltenham, which is absolutely disgusting. A very small one, but I've backed Mascada for the mare's chase. I think she's interesting runner in this whole division. This as a division, there's lots of divisions where things can change a lot. All the novice races obviously can get a big shake up there with horses coming from France, coming from point to point. But the mare's chase, you kind of know what you're dealing with. Like Allegorie de Vassy has now been beaten on her last 3. Definitely no excuses at Fairyhouse. Like maybe Impervious is just a better horse, but to me she looks a bit empty in the finish now. She travelled better than Impervious. Cheltenham Impervious just outfought her. Impervious would be obviously the standout in this division, but she's on the sidelines at the minute, so kind of just wait and see with her. What else have you got in it there? Instead, jumping's a little bit flaky for me with that one. And the Fairyhouse race, I'm not sure how strong a form that was. Dino Blue is one who's probably better suited to be 2 miles, I would say. And then you're into mares that aren't going chasing. Astro Diamond, seems to be staying hurdle. Queensbrook didn't get a mention in the Gordon Elliott stable tour, so I wonder where she's at the moment. Whereas Mascada had a case now for really winning 3 of 4 starts last year. She was a bit disappointing at the Dublin Racing Festival, but very good winner of the Grand Annual over a trip that to me would be on the skinny side for her. Yeah, Dino Blue made mistakes the last few, but Mascada was giving her a couple of pounds and still beat her whatever 6.5 lengths. And again, would look one that would be suited to be 2.5 miles on her previous form. The one little concern I'd have with Mascada is that like these Henry de Bromhead horses. Good pal of mine, now good judge Andy Gibson's pointed this out to me. Like the Henry de Bromhead horses, somebody's produced these outlandish performances at Cheltenham and don't always back them up. Like Envoy Allen, Bob Ollinger, Gerald won the champion chase that time. Just not always guaranteed to back up. Mascada was on the upward course before that. She's officially rated 151, which not really take an awful lot more to win a typical mare's chase. There's kind of 14 to 1 kind of general there. There's a kind of a outlayer there, 25 to 1. Thought was very big, and she's entered in Clonmel on Thursday. I'd be expecting her to hopefully take a bit of beating there with the Bromhead's horses going reasonably well. We're going to find out her fate fairly early if you're interested in backing her anti-post, because it is happening so soon. But this is the obvious key trial, and you've got 3, I think, of the first 5 or 6 in the betting there. So yeah, you kind of have to aim it as it was last year with Scarlet and Dove and Ellie May and Dulcita and a few of them.
Okay, a rare anti-post, very early shout from Tony. Notepads at the ready, everyone. Barry, what about the Clonmel Oil? There's some serious names in here. I don't know what's going to show up, but obviously the feature race on Thursday at Clonmel currently has Fakir Duderi's in there, Ferronilia's in there, Janadil, Allaho, Bob Ollinger, French Dynamite. Those are just the first few on the list. Do you have any clue about what's going to run here, what you would expect to see, well, lining up, but more importantly, actually just winning it, please?
Well, the fact that Willie trained so many of them is definitely a guessing game, because I'd say there'll be no decision made until about 1 minute and it'll be worse again with the Melbourne Cup on before declarations for Clonmel on Tuesday. So, good question, I don't know. But Ferranelli, Janadil and Fakir all be known by JP McManus. I can't imagine all 3 are going to line up. Fakir has won the race before 2 years ago. Janadil has been off for the last 18 months or so. Fernelli has had a run, albeit a little bit disappointing, but I'm sure he'd improve a good bit for that. So there is options for them. Allaho has been off a good while as well, but he has won around here before. He beat Manila Indo nearly 4 years ago in a grade 3 novice hurdle. And then Bob Ollinger possibly coming back to fences. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to line up. But if 3 of the 5 line up, it'll be a very good race.
Yeah, it will be fascinating. And again, the fact that a horse like Allaho has an entry is obviously at least near ready for running. It is very intriguing, some of these good horses coming out at this time of year. Let's talk, Barry, very briefly, because we must wrap up soon, about the Grand Sefton feature race on Saturday here in the UK up at Aintree. Gez Keel is back to kind of go one place better than last year, right the wrong of last year, and a bit of a different profile now, given that we've seen him winning in France relatively recently. Different start to the season for him. Can he go a place better now that he's got that Aintree form? We know he can get round. He was a bit unfortunate this time last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, went close last year and then went close again in the Beecher Chase as well. So plenty of national form. Has won a chase and a tie then since then, which is like a Beecher equivalent as well, or an Aintree equivalent, should I say. But I thought Fantastic Lady, who was second in the Topham on her last run last season, would definitely be one with a chance. It'd be, for me, those two would be the obvious two that would stand out. They have course form, the right kind of age profile, there's plenty of juice in them, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Gez Keel is currently 7-2 with BOYLESPORTS, and Fantastic Lady is around the 11-2 mark in the ANTEPOST market with BOYLESPORTS. Right, guys, we must wrap up with tracker time. We're going to bring back the tracker for season 4 of Off the Fence. So you will be giving your horse. I won't be, because I failed so badly when we've tried this in the past. But Barry and Tony each week will be giving your horse to look out for their next run. They'll explain their case. Tony, we're going to start with you, please. How are you approaching tracker time this season, and who do you have for us in week 1?
Yeah, just say a little bit about tracker horse and that, like, just the people are clear, like, some people like them, some people don't, which is fair enough, everyone does their own thing. Just, I take the vast bulk of the horses I have in my tracker from kind of replays and stuff that I've watched back. Like, this is, again, people probably spitting when like, I've over 260 horses in it at the minute, flat and jumps. Like, some of them are much stronger than others. Some of the top, they're just auto bet wherever they turn up. Most of them are kind of relying on certain circumstances. Like, they're there for me memory as much as anything. My memory isn't as good as it used to be. That's just the way it is. And also, just you miss them. Like, I missed them with Irish racing going on. I don't know how anyone following English racing doesn't miss loads of them. There's so much going on. Not suggesting for a second that you'd bet them all. You have to use a little bit of cop on and a little bit of nuance. But when I'd be kind of trying to find a horse to put in my tracker, I'd be hoping there's something that's a little bit less than obvious in it. Trying to factor in that the market might miss it. But you know what, and this just happens all the time, it's very, very hard to guess what markets are going to do. And I'm just going to give an example of this. Like, sometimes what you think is obvious isn't, and what you think no one else has spotted, everyone has spotted. Like, I had a horse there on the flat that I picked out. I think it ran up to Curra, 7 furlongs, Derby weekend, Crystal Black. I finished like 10th of 18. It was off a little bit of a break. It had been with Dermot Weld, joined Gerri Keen, and I was saying, no one has seen this. The horse has finished out his race, goes up to a mile. This thing's going to be a price the next day. I'm going to have all day to back it. I can take my time. It'll drift out on the machine. Absolutely brilliant. So it opens up I think the first show the night before, 16 or 18 to 1. It's absolutely fantastic. Got up the next morning, and he's 5 or 6 to 1. And I'm so sick I don't back it, like, and it drifts out a bit on Betfair during the day, and it just says, I'll wait again. It just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. I don't know if this proved that I'm a genius or an idiot or somewhere in between, but I was so sick over it I didn't back it. But the point I'm making is that the markets are wild. What seems obvious may not be, and vice versa. So I'm going to start with one that maybe is a little bit queer, and the trainer is a little bit queer, to be quite honest with you. Like, this lad will run this horse 8 times between now and the end of November. Well, slightly exaggeration, probably Christmas. But Grange Walk trained by John Ray, and he definitely has his own way of doing things, this trainer. But I would say Grange Walk now has a good handicap hurdle in him, or at least a handicap hurdle in him. He was coming off a long break there running at Cork on Sunday. I would say the 2 horses that fought out to finish of that race, Conyers Hill and I can't think of the name of Peter Fahey's horse that was second, Superstar or Superman or something like that. I'd say both of those are unexposed, reasonably well handicapped horses, and Grange Walk has travelled as well as them, I'd say, to the second last, and has then gone down the inside, which hasn't really suited, and he's off a long break. John Rain likes to run his horses. They wouldn't just be coming on for the first run. I'd say they're coming on for their second and third and fourth run. So this horse, to me, should be improving for that run. The other thing is his previous piece of form over hurdles at Listowel, when he was second to Glan, to me would look like a serious piece of form. Like Glan ran no race in the Galway hurdle, but the McManus crowd took horses out to get that horse in, to punt it into favourite for the Galway hurdle. Now I know she didn't turn up on the day, but how well handicapped was she in Listowel when Grange Walk ran second to her? Had a lot in hand. So Grange Walk we want to have in mind, preferably over hurdles. He's a little bit of an X-rated horse over fences. He's inclined to travel well into it and then hit one. He's done this loads, but he has won good races. Like he has won, I think at the Dublin Racing Festival, a decent race down in Goran last year. But I think for the moment, hurdles, 2 mile handicap hurdles, probably on testing ground, would be where I'd be looking at with him.
Okay, Grange Walk then for you. As you were talking there, I was thinking to myself, I'm so glad this show is back. I've really missed Tony and his turn of phrase. It's just terrific. Barry, can I have your tracker horse, please, now that Tony's set you up beautifully for it?
Yeah, well, the horse who caught my eye was Beauport. He was ridden very handy when he won the Colin Parker in Carlisle last season. Little bit hit and miss there after that. But he was dropped in Ascot in the Sodexo Chase, followed around. I thought finished reasonably well. I would like to think with this run under his belt, he could be very competitive in the Ladbrokes Trophy maybe next time. So I thought it was a nice run. He was only 3 or 4 lengths behind 2 for Gold and Eldorado Allen, who would hold a good level of form from last season.
Okay, Beauport then it is for Barry. Guys, we've rattled through that, slightly gone over time, but it was too much fun to cut short. So thank you very much, Barry and Tony, as always. Listeners and viewers out there, do get involved. Who is your tracker horse from the week just gone? Who are you looking forward to seeing at Clonmel, Down Royal, in the Sefton, over at Aintree? Get involved. We want to hear from you this season. We're going to be pushing that all the time. So comments, please, in the box below, Twitter, etc. But thank you very much to not only our sponsors BOYLESPORTS, but to you guys out there for sticking with us for a 4th season. That was season 4, episode 1, done and dusted of Off the Fence. We will be back next Monday, but for now, have a good one, guys. Thank you very much for watching.